With art, it's more important that we try than it's important that it be perfect. And that's how I really feel about you making this art project right now. I want you to just try, do your best. You can do it. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be great because this is just a rough project. It's not supposed to look perfect. It's supposed to have that sort of minimalistic, simplistic feel that's soft, that's organic. So even making mistakes is okay. Welcome to Celebration State, where we help Christian creatives to grow in their creativity and in their love for God as well. So what I want you to see here is the cards that we're using. You can get these pre-made. You do not have to make them yourself. Although if you did, it would take a lot of measuring, but you could do that and save some money that way, probably. I will give links in the description to both things, but all that we're going to need to get started is this paper. We're also going to need some tape to tape it down so that it doesn't get bowed into strange directions when the water and the color is drying on it. After this, we're going to need a few brushes. Really just a few sizes is what you'll need eventually, but for this project, you could get away with just one larger sized round brush. It'll be great. And then we're going to rinse it in our cup of water. And this cup can be any kind of cup you want because watercolor paint washes off really easy, so it probably won't ruin anything that you have. Paper towels to blot our paint brushes on when we want to switch colors, and we're also going to need our paints, of course. So we are going to tape this card onto something that it is firm and flat. It's not going to bend if it gets wet, so you don't want to use like cardboard or something. I have actually, in the past, I've used a table for this, like a crafting table, that it was okay to get wet, but I don't necessarily recommend that, especially if it's not your table. But different kinds of wooden boards can be helpful for this. I will give links in the description to some of those as well, but it might be helpful for you to just go down to like a Home Depot or something like that and ask someone's opinion on what is the best water-resistant board that you can find. Then you won't need a super big one either because you're just going to tape the card on it with the tape that we have. When you tape down your card, if you want a rough edge, in other words, if you want it to be torn by the tape as you're taking the tape back up when you're finished, then you don't need to worry about this. But best practices with something that is so very delicate, like this little heart that we're making, is go ahead and put that tape on one smooth, clean surface before you tape it onto your paper, and that way it won't be quite as sticky and won't have any danger of pulling up the paper if you do it delicately when you're finished. I actually made this really detailed video of how to pre-stretch your paper with a lot of water, and I'll link to that right above my head right now. But it's okay if there's a little bit of bowing, a little bit of the paper moving and changing shape because of the watercolor. It's not going to affect it that much with this project. What we are doing with this project is we are making a heart. We're making an I love you, a unity heart that shows the combining of two different colors. This is also going to be illustrating to you one of the ways that watercolors blend. So what we're going to do is with our colors, our watercolor colors, and either a paper plate or a painter's palette. I didn't list it in the materials that you'd need in the beginning because it is really just optional. But what we're going to do is we're going to be making a diluted mixture of each color separately on their own. So we're going to water down and make a mixture of your first color. So for me, it's red. Then with a very clean brush, so we're going to be dabbing the brush and then rinsing it and then dabbing it some more. You're going to get a little bit of water on this brush and you're going to go in to the blue, and then we're going to water down and make a mixture of our second color. Once you have that on your paper plate or your palette, make sure it doesn't run in and mix together yet because we are going to let it mix on our paper. So the first thing we're going to do with our watercolors, we're going to get a very clean brush wet, and we are going to, with that clean brush, we are going to make a heart-shaped area of water. Now, it's really important for you to be paying attention and keeping in mind where you've put the water down on your paper. Because if you have made a water shape, but it also has something coming off on the side, you want to actually let the whole thing dry again before you actually start to put the paint on, because the thing about watercolor is that it mixes in where water is touching. It's this really interesting thing. Make sure that your heart that you've made is still shiny. If it's not shiny anymore, you need to get it wet again in that same heart shape that you were using before, because if the paper is not wet enough to be shiny in that area, then it's showing us that it's beginning to dry. And so the mixing technique, the blending technique is not going to work how we want it to. So make sure you have a nice shiny heart on your paper. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to use our already wet brush, and we're going to pick up some of this red paint. And I want you to go ahead and start applying it onto the right side of your heart. And don't be afraid to use a lot of pigment here, because that's going to blend nicely if we do that. And it'll give you a nice richer color in the middle. So we are going to use this red, and we're going to go all the way past the middle into just a little bit up. Don't go all the way to that edge though. That's going to be saved for the blue. Then with a very clean brush, so we're going to be dabbing the brush and then rinsing it, you're going to get a little bit of water on this brush, and you're going to go in to the blue. And the same way that you did with the red, you are going to do it with the blue, except for on this left side, you are going to use a very clean, only blue color on this top left corner. But as it's going to get into this mixed color, as we're going to get into the red, we are going to have a totally new color on our brush. It's going to start to be this purple. So first, be sure that you have your top left corner as blue as you want it to be, and then come into this mixed area with your blue, and now your brush is purple. So go ahead and mix that color all the way up into the red. Now be careful, for in this process, if you're trying to fix things, you need to make sure that your brush is wet, because if your brush is dry, then it's actually going to pick up some of this color, some of this watercolor. It'll get sucked up into the brush like a sponge. So if you want to add more blue or more red anywhere on this little heart that we're making, then make sure that you have a clean brush that's wet in whatever color you are adding. My paper had a little bit of a divot in the middle because I used this card a few times to show us examples of what not to do, but yours probably won't have this divot in the middle, which will make it so it doesn't quite pool as much as mine is doing in the center, which is going to be good. I actually like how it pools in the middle. And that's the interesting thing about watercolor, is it is very difficult to predict how it's going to dry, and that is part of the magic of it, part of the fun. So now that you have both colors on with your heart that is nice and wet, you are going to leave it. And I know that this is really hard because you want to help the process, you want to make it blend better, you want to just be a part of it, but watercolor is something you just have to let it go. You have to let it dry. So do that, and then after it is dry, you will be able to see that you've made something beautiful. But here's what I want to show you guys. There's no right way to do this. This is just a fun project that shows the meeting of these two colors. I want to show you, this is a card. If you make your heart with not that much color in the middle, then it's going to look like this one, where there's this sort of really light color here. It is purple, but it's very light. So if you want your heart to look like that, then go ahead and do that. And this heart is what it looks like if you don't mix the colors at all, which is still really neat. There's still two colors forming the sides of a heart. And if you want your heart to look like that, then you can do it more like that and don't even do the mixing step. And if you notice down at the bottom of my heart, there's this place where the colors are not coming into a perfect point, but that's okay. I kind of like it. I kind of like how it looks like that. And I'm going to give you some examples of things that you can write on your card if you want to, but I encourage you also to use your own words. I think it especially would look nice with a black ink, but you could try other colors as well. So God willing, this is going to be a project that takes us through many cards, and they're not just for a particular season. They can just be a way that you tell people that you love them. So I hope that you'll stay tuned. I hope that it's engaging and exciting for you. If you have questions, please let me know down in the comments. And don't forget to tag me in your social media if you do make this, or you could also send me an email. I would love to see what you've made. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to grow in your creativity and in your love for God, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching. Be so blessed.